Yo, yo, yo. Hey, guys, welcome back to another awesome edition of the Best Practices Show podcast. My name is Kirk Behrendt, and I am just absolutely loving this. So you know how this works. My job is to bring you great information on things that you need, and I know a lot of you are looking for new team members, most specifically a new hygienist. And I have one of my dear friends on today. Her name is Rachel Wall, and you're going to see she's brilliant. She's not only an awesome educator, but she's an incredible friend and a great colleague and a great mentor of mine. And she shares a lot of cool stuff on the 5 don'ts when it comes to attracting a new hygienist in your office. So check it out. We'll see you guys soon. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show podcast. My name is Kirk Behrendt. I'm so glad you're here. You know what's so fun? I don't really know a whole lot. I just have smart friends. And one of my friends that I'm bringing on today, she's wicked smart. She's really smart. Like she's a rock star in the world of dental continuing education. Rachel Wall. And I'll tell you a little story before I introduce her. And today we're going to be talking about the 5 don'ts of attracting a great hygienist to your office. So you're going to want to listen. And then she's also going to let you see or have one of her roadmaps, which is the hygiene growth roadmap. So you got to stick around. You got to listen to this. But I want to say something about my friend Rachel Wall. So I was in a conference. Actually, I'd heard her name many times. And then I was in a conference, and I think I was speaking like across the hall from you. I had like 3 people in my room, and you had like 3,000 in yours. And I kept coming over like, quiet over here. I'm trying to talk to these 3 people. And, you know, I think that's the first time we met. And then as I got to know you, I'm like, she's really smart. And then we had you out to our one of our events, and I introduced you to the rest of my team. And my team was like, she's really smart. I'm like, I told you. So, Rachel, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Kirk. Yeah, I was thinking about that actually as we were starting this. I think it was in DC, and then you kind of yelled at me across the hall, and you're like, "We got to get together. We got to meet and get to know each other." And here we are, probably 6 or 8 years later, right?
Yeah, you just thought I was one of your regular stalkers, but I wasn't.
No,
I was
actually
I knew
who you were. I knew exactly who you were.
Well, you're the best. And so I want people to know who Rachel Wall is before we get started. Who are you? Like, what do you do? You have an amazing company. Can you tell people about what you do?
Thank you. Yeah. So I am the CEO and founder of Inspired Hygiene. And Inspired Hygiene is a group of amazing individuals, most of us hygienists, that coach and train and support our clients and the dental industry as a whole, really, in helping to elevate hygiene services, systems, and profitability. So we do that through private coaching. We do that through CE programs, and kind of everything in between. So yeah, thanks for letting me share a little bit today of what we've learned. And it's kind of cool, you know, we get an inside look into so many practices in so many different areas of the country. And so I love just sharing that, you know, to help others kind of maybe get some nuggets of things they hadn't thought that would really improve things in their practice, and also maybe some things to avoid.
Yeah. And I can say that about you. One of the things you've done for me personally, not only for our community, but for me personally, is you are an awesome sharer. So I don't mind sharing this. Like, you and I went through strategic coach, not in the same classes. Right. But then you would send me notes or thoughts. I'm like, this is really smart stuff. And before we hit the go button, we were talking about our traction experience. Like, I'll tell you, Rachel's a great entrepreneur. So I really, really appreciate that. So you guys got to check her stuff out. And if you have a study club and you have not had her speak, my first thought is, what are you thinking? Like, so just like get her out there. Now, I want to talk about the 5 don'ts of attracting a great hygienist. And now, before we do that, just let's give us a little state of the union where we're at. Like, where are we at in the world right now? Because you and I both know this is like the bane of everyone's existence, is like finding, how do we attract, find great team members? What are you hearing on the road? Give us some perspective.
So what we're hearing is that, or at least from our clients, those that are looking and looking in earnest and using some of these tips that we'll share, they're successful. It might take a while, but they've been successful actually in finding a hygienist. And so that's encouraging. I think in the last, I mean, we're recording this in the summer, midsummer 2022. And so I think now we're starting to see some improvement. What we know is that a lot of hygienists are getting out of school with jobs. In fact, I just saw something that came across from Vermont. One of the hygiene schools in Vermont is actually changing their program to make it a little bit more accelerated so that they can graduate more hygienists and more hygienists sooner, not cutting out anything major, right? But just looking at how can they make things more efficient. And what they said is as of graduation, all their hygienists graduating had positions, and most of them had jobs 2 or 3 months before school was out.
Wow.
What we know though is that not all of those hygienists are going to stay in those positions. So you want to create a situation that's attractive, bringing them into the practice, and then create a culture, right? Which is something that you guys work with your clients a ton on. A culture that really helps them want to stay.
Yeah.
So I think that the state of the union is we've got to really be creative. You can't just rest on your laurels in the ways that you have marketed your practice for team members in the past. And I am seeing our clients be successful with finding hygienists. Certainly it's different in different areas. If you're in a really remote area, it can be a little bit tricky. But I think things are improving slightly. And I think practices are recognizing too that they've got to be a little bit flexible too on what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And what they're willing to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're going to get into this, but you get ads, you get to see this stuff. I mean, people send you things and you're like, oh my goodness. We can chat about the ins and out of this. And, I think probably one of the things, we see this too, is I think we could just say this, an ad is not going to fix your office. I think, throwing the golden lasso out there to find somebody to fix your office. You can speak on behalf. These people are smart. These hygienists know, and I hate this term, but it's true. The Great Resignation. I think let's speak to both sides of it as a dental employer, but also if you're a great hygienist listening, you know that you're good. You know that your next stop, you want it to be a good one. Can you speak to that? Like, you're not just going to work for anybody, and it's not all about money. Some of these dentists think it's all about money. It's not, don't you think?
No. Yeah, it's not. It certainly is not all about money. And I think that there are hygienists out there that would be willing to, take a little lower rate if they really and truly believed that the culture was really healthy and strong. And, you've got to, in addition to finding the right fit, from a financial standpoint, you've got to find the right fit for a culture. Right. And I respect, dental employers who are willing to say, you know what, this person was willing to come work with us, but it wasn't going to be a fit with our team and our culture. And they weren't willing to be flexible around this or that, whether it's standard of care or being willing to kind of, adjust their protocols and ways of thinking to the practice. So, I think that there's a lot of different factors that you've got to look for when you're finding a team member. And I think a lot of folks are getting desperate right now. Yeah. And so I think that you do need to keep an open mind, right? And don't count somebody out right away. But also the same goes for the employee, right? You've got to keep an open mind too, and being willing to look at, the practice and really say, okay, like they're doing things at a higher level. Maybe they're using digital scanning and I don't have experience with that, right? Maybe they have a really thorough perio protocol and I don't have experience with that, but I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to see like, what is their philosophy and what do they believe about these services that really brings a lot to their patients and brings value, to their community. So I think we've all got to keep an open mind. Now, to that, and this isn't one of the dotes, but it kind of came to my mind as another thing that I heard was a hygienist had come to a practice asking for significantly higher hourly rate than what's happening, in the community. And the hygienist came and was really, promoting herself as to what she was able to do in the practice and that she did have experience. She came from a high Invisalign practice. She had experience promoting that type of care and helping to enroll. And she was asking for a high hourly rate and also percentage of cases, but she could not produce. She could not document what her production was in this past practice. She didn't know. And she wasn't familiar with digital scanning to
Okay.
help, enroll clear aligners or other treatment for that matter. So my point being is that if we're coming, either it can work on either way, right? If we're coming with a lot of like demands or requests, we've got to back up. Why can I ask for that? What do I have to show you that I can perform to the level of what I'm asking for? Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And I
Okay.
love what you're saying. I think it's okay to ask for anything.
Yeah.
I tell my kids, you don't get what you don't ask for. But at the same token,
Right.
tell me if you agree with this. Like, please don't hear this the wrong way if you're a listener. Okay. I tell dentists there's only two reasons to ever hire anybody. They fit your core values and they get results, period. Not because they're your neighbor, they're a nice person, they have experience. At the end of the day, you want somebody who's totally a core values fit and you don't think about them on a regular basis. You don't have to micromanage them. They just
Right.
can do what they say they can do. Would you agree with that
I would absolutely agree with that. And I think back to the kid example, you don't get what you don't ask for, but you also don't just expect because you ask for
Right.
something that everybody's going to hand it to you. Like you've got to,
100%.
if you're asking for an internship, for example, what have you done that's going to make you a really great fit and what can you bring to the table? And you've got to be able to document that. Like I've had this and this and this experience. I was a camp counselor leader here. I was a leader of this team here. It's like, okay, all right, well, you've got some experience with this. You can't go, I would never want my kid to go in and say, well, I don't know, just because I want it.
Yeah.
Bad answer.
Bad.
So, right.
I love
So,
it.
so this, so the same goes for, an employer. If you're demanding, certain things, then you've got to say, the reason is because we've seen that work in our practice. We've seen that that's what our patients value. And we've seen that our patients' health improves when we treat periodontal disease this way. So it goes both ways. So I wish I could come up with a really succinct way of saying it, but basically, you don't get what you don't ask for. However, you've got to be able to document your experience that is going to warrant you getting what it is you're asking for.
I think you said that really well.
Okay.
See
Okay, good.
see? I'm telling you guys, she knows what she's talking about. This is so cool. So take us through the 5 don'ts and how you came up with this list. Did you just well, I would imagine these are just recurring patterns that you see over and over again. So take us through number 1.
They
I
are
love it.
recurring patterns. They are recurring patterns. And if you know strategic coach and EOS, I'm a high quick start.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're a much higher quick start than I am. So these are things I was like, what are we going to talk about on our podcast? Oh, this is a good one. Right?
Boom.
So here we go. So don't use only 1 or 2 methods when you're seeking another team member and a new team member. This doesn't matter. It's not just hygienists, right? This really goes for any position in your practice. I'm hearing things about, Indeed. The latest I've heard about Indeed is there's not much coming from Indeed, but
Right.
someone else may have a different experience. So you've got to try multiple ways. I would say use all the dental, the dental job posting boards. Use Indeed if you've seen that work in your area, but you've also got a network,
Right.
right? I mean, the best people come often from networking. They come from people that you know. Now, again, don't hire them just because you know them
Right.
or your neighbor knows them. But if they happen to fit your core values and they get results, then you also have someone that has some history with this individual, which is always super helpful, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, networking, get to know, the leaders at your dental hygiene programs, even if they're not local, even if they're in another state. I moved to another state when I started practicing dental hygiene. So hygienists are willing to do that if they, are going into a practice that they really think that they're going to enjoy and it's meeting their, expectations as well.
Yeah. Can I add a couple things?
Yeah,
So I love
please.
this because what you're saying is absolutely true. And I think what you're trying to say is like, it's not the whole Indeed thing because we did put a lot of chips in that. Just
Yep.
kind of be open. Like you say, like you find like minds, put it out to your team. I know of a practice here in Wisconsin. So they had 2 amazing hygienists and they're like, listen, we love you guys. And so what they did is they created what was called an open house. So they went to everybody they'd ever known and said, come over to our practice for a half an hour. I'm going to give you a tour. And so they ended up finding another hygienist that had been friends of one of the two, and it ended up working out. Now, that wasn't their only way to do it, but they got creative. You know, I think that's what you're trying to say. It's just kind of be open.
Yeah. We got creative. Just this week, I got a flyer in the mail because I'm still a licensed hygienist in North Carolina. I have no plans of not renewing my license. And it was from a dental practice that's probably about 20 miles away. And it was beautiful. It was the doctor, you know, saying, hey, we're looking for a hygienist to join our team, and just listed some of the really nice, you know, benefits in their practice and what they're looking for. They had a QR code. I saw, so I go and dig, and I sent him a little Facebook message. I'm like, great job. Like, this is amazing. Like, you're making us look good, right? This is what we want to see from our profession. And I noticed they're working with what I've seen to be a very current dental marketing company, right? They're very, like, they keep current, they're keeping up with social media and that kind of thing. And so they had a QR code on the postcard that led you to their website where they had a team video, and the doctor had a video, and it's just super well done. So you've got to be able to invest in this. You've got to be able to think creatively, get out of the box, open houses, you know, going and speaking at the, some of our clients have gone and spoken at the dental hygiene programs, right? Or at the dental schools in the area, and just talk to them about what is real life like as a dental hygienist in a private practice. Like, what can you expect? Yeah. And what do we do in our practice just as an educational piece, but you'll have relationships that you've built. And one of our clients told us, you know, we've done that. And so now when there are hygienists that are looking, they call us. Mm-hmm. Like the hygiene director calls our practice. Do you have any open positions? We've got someone that called the office. So, I mean, it's worth its weight in gold. Okay.
Yeah, I love it. You know, when you go back to, I just love all this stuff. So, you know, that practice that you're talking about, first of all, I think it's really important if you're a listener, you got to understand these people are doing probably more homework on you than you'll ever do on them. Yes. And so they're going to your website, taking a look at these things. At the very minimum, if you have core values in your practice, you should have your core values on your webpage. And this is one thing we've done is we've said, you know, what about our team would make, and so if they don't know the core value, they haven't been there, or what, it kind of tells me a little bit. But it's really great to have something, if you're a dental practice owner, like this is why it would be cool to be part of our team, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. We've also put together, I'm going to call it a pitch deck. And I was inspired by a friend of mine, Paradesports, who, you know, does a lot of like associate work with DSOs, finding associates and retaining associates. So I have to give him a shout out. But we created a recruiting deck for practices for our clients to use. And so, like, put your video. Like, one of our clients, we built this deck for him. We're like, you got to have a link on this slide to your video on your site. And hey, by the way, you have 423 reviews in Google, and they're 5-star. So potential employees are going to be looking at that kind of thing, right? And you want to highlight that kind of thing. You want to highlight what you can bring to the table, because like you said, they're checking you out as well. So put it in a nice slide form, you know, so that you can either share that on social media, you can share it with a potential, you know, candidate, you can share it with them when you're coming in to interview them, and make it really easy for them to see what's really great about your practice. In addition to giving them a tour, but there might be some things that they don't pick up on that you want to highlight.
I love that. Yeah. What a great idea. Great idea.
Okay. So number 2, don't put too many details in the ad. So I reviewed an ad recently, and it was great. I mean, it's a great opportunity, fantastic practice. I know the dentist personally, and it's full-time. So they're giving them full-time benefits, pretty much full-time pay, but it's 3 days a week. But they put all the details of the scheduling. And honestly, if I were a hygienist, I would want to work different days than what they put in the ad, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm afraid that if they put that much detail in the ad, it's going to turn people off, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to say, well, I don't like that sequence of days because it doesn't allow me to have a long weekend, for example. And so I would say, if you're willing to be flexible, just put that in there. Say it's 3 days, full-time benefits paid, which is fantastic. Like reach out to us and we'll give you more information. And then if you are flexible with the days, then say that, but I wouldn't put like all the details of the hours and that kind of thing in there, because you may turn somebody off right away, that you may be able to talk with them and work something out that would be flexible for them and would work for you.
Right, because you're killing a significant amount of traffic being too specific about the hours. I would imagine that's a big deal for people too. I'm not a big fan of people working on Saturdays, but I understand a lot of the industry does, and Fridays, I don't know. I think you're exactly right. Be a little vague and specific enough where you can engage these people in a conversation, because if they see how cool you are, they might be open too, right?
Yeah. And then you could explain, these are the hours that we've had in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And you might say, we're open to other ideas as long as we have these hours covered.
Yeah.
Maybe you job share with somebody and cover the hours or something. So, I think that there's a way that they could get creative, and I'm going to give them that feedback, to think about that a little bit differently. So maybe don't put too many details, because also if there's too much in there, they might just say, oh my gosh, that's confusing.
Right.
I don't understand that. So move it on to the next one, because there's a lot of ads out there, right? So they might just move on to the next ad.
Right.
All right. Next, don't forget to engage your team. So you mentioned this a little bit, right? Is get your team involved. Have your team there when you're doing this open house, when you're doing the tour. Maybe you have something fun happening. Maybe it's like a wine tasting at your office, or you hire a band to come, to your office for an afternoon and have, drinks and apps, and maybe you've got some new equipment that you want to share with everybody, that they can kind of come see, hey, we've got this new 3D printer. Let us show you kind of what this is doing. Maybe it's something they might be interested in for their practice.
Yeah.
So, maybe have something fun, have the team there, have them invite some of their friends or dental friends.
Right.
And even, could be even something for patients too, to come check out. But engage your team, have your team share with you what are the things that they feel like are great about working at your practice.
Right.
Because there might be things that you as the employer don't even realize that are really important to them.
Right.
It might be, when I'd have on Wednesdays when I've got to pick up my son from this appointment or whatever, the team really pitches in to help me.
Right.
And when I brought this concern to the table, I was really nervous, because I thought, okay, everybody's going to be upset because I'm leaving an hour early. But you know what? They really stood up for me. And then I do the same for them.
Yeah.
So it may be little things like that. Like we have just a super amazing teamwork at our practice.
Yeah. Can I ask you? So I've never asked you this question. So you've been an entrepreneur for how many years? Like
20 years.
So yeah, me about the same, 25. And you have an amazing business. Like, so, and I realize that the listeners have a little bit different business, but if you had to just spitball percentage of people you found that were not referrals and percentage that were referrals from team members, if you had to guess, like in your history of employment, like what would you say?
Oh, like new team members coming in that were referrals from other team members?
Other team members. I mean, just guessing.
I would say 50-50.
Yeah, I'd say about two. Yeah. And your best ones, I mean, there's some that you get that you had no experience that are amazing, but like historically, the ones that I look around, like you've been here for 8 years, like 6 years, like 7 years, and they're awesome. They typically, not always, but typically come from other people who are doing the extra homework and they know a little bit about it. And so same thing with patients, same thing with everything. So I think your number 3 is spot on. Like if you can lean heavier into that, probably then Indeed. And I get it. Things are different now, but your team, if you do a good job of taking care of your team, they're going to be extra protective, don't you think? They're not just going to let everybody in here.
That's right. And because they want to protect the culture. I mean, I've seen that in my business too. And our team members have almost 100% come from referrals and networking. And I love that because, then you get some context, right? You have some context, and you're going to get like a real life reference for this person. And here's the deal. Always. And I learned to, fortunately did not have a bad experience that taught me this, but I got it from somebody. Probably you told me this. Always, no matter how you know this person, do a background check. Always.
That
I
could be
don't
a
care
whole
if they're your
separate
neighbor.
podcast.
That's a
Okay.
whole separate podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's not my area of expertise, but I'm just going to say
No.
always do a background check.
Well, you and I
Okay.
share a mutual friend, David Harris, and he just
Yeah.
listen to him, and I'll just, I'll drop a hint on
Scared
everyone listening.
straight.
Number one, never, ever, ever, ever call a phone number somebody gives you as a reference. Ever. Find out the person's phone number independently and call the company. Don't call the person. I don't want to even mention how I know that one for sure, because
Okay.
people give fake phone numbers of big names, and you think you're talking to the big name, but it's their brother in a bedroom somewhere.
Okay, well, I learned something because I never would have thought of that. But that's what David says. He's like, well, you're not thinking like a criminal because you're not a criminal. I'm like,
Right.
oh man, this is
No, but
scary. So yeah.
This
So
is
listen
not
to David Harris's podcast.
this is not Kirk's horror stories and hiring. This is Rachel
Okay.
Wall's 5 don'ts.
Well, that's a don't. So there's another don't. Okay, so don't forget to engage your team. I do encourage you to have your team do videos.
Yes.
Even if it's the iPhones now, you can do a pretty amazing video with an iPhone.
Go back. Why? Why do you encourage?
Because it's their peer. It's one
Yes.
thing for you as the employee to say you're great, but the team members should be telling others why it's great to work there.
Right.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's a peer. Okay. Next don't.
Wait. Go back to, okay, I'm sorry. I just love this stuff. Okay, so the video thing is really, really great. I also encourage people, and we've done this for now a year and a half, and I love it. You have to submit a short 60-second video on why you would be good for this. So not only do you have team members doing videos, but like if somebody can't take their iPhone, turn it around and go, my name is Rachel Wall, and I would be a good fit for this. Delete, because it's going to save you hundreds of hours. But I love just thinking outside of the box on these things.
Okay, I love that. I'm writing that down as a do, right? The candidate.
Yeah. No,
Does a
but you'll be
60-second
fascinated. Rachel, here's one. I would be great in your office because I'm really good with people. And we actually, someone was drinking when they sent us one. I'm like, no, thank you. Like, this is a
But
job.
thank you.
But thank
you at the same time.
Yeah,
for,
no kidding.
Doing this because check.
Right.
So, yeah, and that goes back to like the old school days of, my former employer, Chris Bowman, who's amazing. He's like, everybody has to call this phone number and leave a message.
I love that.
Right? You have to call this phone number and leave a message. And so this is just like the next level. So at a bare minimum, have them call a phone number that's not your office number, right? And leave a message of why you think you'd be great to work in our practice. And then if you really want to level it up, the video.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
Yeah, I love that too. Thank you for mentioning that.
Hey.
Okay. Don't forget to include special, like unique perks to your practice. Again, like being paid full-time and working 3 days a week, like that's actually a really cool perk.
Mm-hmm.
That's attractive to me. So don't forget to include that. One of our clients works with the, you call it the cycles, it's a Blatchford method cycles where they work 6 weeks and then they have a week off. So they have a lot of time off.
Yep.
And now not all of that time is paid off, but I think about half of it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so who wouldn't want to have just an automatic like 6 weeks off per year?
Yeah.
That's super attractive. And when I was reviewing their ad with them, she hadn't included that. I was like, that's really important. Like you got to put that in there. So there are things that you do in your practice that are just second nature to you because that's just who you are, right? It's part of your core values or it's part of your processes. But, it might be very unique. Like for a hygienist, do you have a sharpening service that sharpens all your instruments?
Right.
Do you have a dedicated assistant for the hygiene department? Or do you have a sterilization tech that, it doesn't mean that we don't work as a team, but if I know, like I'm coming into a busy practice and it's been like, let's just say it, like our clients and their team members, it has been crazy and chaotic the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So if they're looking at a practice and they're like, oh my gosh, they have a sterilization tech, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And that would really make my life easier and I could focus on my patients. So those are things that I would say, like, list them out specifically. And this kind of goes a little bit about I said don't put too many details, but if there are some things like that that you really think are attractive, list it.
100%.
That's,
And
yeah, that's going to win them over.
again, things that are important to you, like a continuing education allowance, like that's an important one. Or the fact that you guys take a lot of continuing education. You've been on a team retreat. Like, it's not so much the benefit. It tells me a little bit about you as an owner, like how much you care about your team
Yes,
members,
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that.
And don't forget to include, right, that CE might be a CE trip, or it might be,
Right.
we're involved with Act Dental and we, go to Milwaukee on a regular basis and have a really great time. So it's not just local CE, right? We're actually getting out and doing these things. And if you have, we believe that technology is a big part of our practice. That might be one of your core values, and include that.
Yeah,
So don't forget to include those unique perks that you might
absolutely.
just think are normal, but they're actually very attractive and very unique about your practice. Um,
100%.
don't offer things to attract candidates that you're not willing to offer to your existing team.
Ooh, now this is a big one because
Yeah.
sometimes you just want to, make it look attractive and you don't realize, first of all, isn't that illegal in some respect or not? I mean, I don't know. I'm stepping way out of bounds here, but like you
Me
can't,
too. We'd have to ask our HR friends, but I'm thinking probably so. Yeah. In
right.
fact, I think something just was published recently in one of the journals by the Bent Erickson team about that. So look that up. But yeah,
So go
I
back
think
to, so give
it
me an
may be.
example, like what's one that you hear of, like just special incentives? I think now, again, I'm speaking way outside, but if it's outside of compensation and there are other things related to the role, you have to be consistent. Number two, I think from a consistency standpoint, you just have to, as a leader, you've just got to be incredibly consistent, right? Like,
Yeah, and yes, because what if, I mean, think of the things as a leader and you want loyalty. Well, if your team feels like, well, gosh, they're trying to hire this hygienist and they're giving them a $1,500 signing bonus, but we haven't hit our number and we haven't gotten a bonus in six
right,
months. So, you know what? Maybe they don't value me as much as I thought that they did.
right.
So you've got to be transparent, because if you think your team members aren't going to see the ad, you're wrong. They are, because they might be looking too.
For sure. For sure.
So, you've got to just be upfront. And we've had a lot of clients that have told us this, or like, look, I just went across the board and I just made sure that my hygienists were making the rate that I'm going to be offering to this new hygienist, and I gave everybody a stay bonus, right?
I love
I
it.
value you. I would love you to stay, and I want to do the same for you that I'm willing to do with any new candidate. So just, be very sensitive to that. And it's just like patients, right? When we all want all these new patients, but what are we doing to keep the patients that we have and make them feel really well and taken care of for? Same thing applies to our team. And I
Right.
think you and I are both employers as well. Like, we got to take our own advice, right? So I always like to look at myself in regards to these, like, am I doing any of these don'ts? But yeah, we've heard some things about that
Yeah.
from some of our clients, and most of them have been proactive. And when they consider giving a signing bonus before they put it out there, they let the team know, hey, I
Right.
want to do this for you guys too.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you on all of those fronts. And it's unfortunate it does happen, but having an exit interview with a team member who's quit and, just try to gain as much knowledge behind it, because
Yes.
the consistent person in this equation is always me, and
Yeah.
so a lot of what they will tell you will only help you in this journey. Now, Rachel, this is awesome. Let's say I'm a 32-year-old dentist listening. Okay, so let's say I do this treatment. Give me some advice for a happy career. How do I get them to stay? Because you mentioned it a little bit, but I want you to go back to give me. That's probably a whole nother episode. But like, give me a little
That's okay.
wisdom.
A couple do's.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you hire the hygienist, what are the do's? I would say just open lines of communication, and really, really see your team members as extensions of yourself as a provider, right?
Right.
So as a dentist, and I think most dentists believe this, at least the ones that you and I have the opportunity to work with, is they want someone, they want team members that they can collaborate with. They want team members that can say, what do you think about this case? You know, you're the expert in the periodontal space. Like, how can I support you? So I would say just empower your hygienist, empower your team. But if we're talking specifically about hygiene, like empower them to be an integral part of your diagnostic team. You know,
100.
give them the tools, give them the training on the tools that you use and that you expect them to use, and then really make sure that they have a very deep working knowledge of your treatment philosophy. And that takes time
Yeah.
and attention, right? So that takes you as the dentist really educating them and having them come alongside you and say, look, I want you to sit with me during this procedure because this is something that I see all the time. Hygienists, we never see a prep, right? The
Right.
dentist and the assistant see that, but the business team and the hygienist, we don't see that. And so take photos of those things as you're doing preps. When you see like a crack at the bottom of a prep, take a picture when you take out an old amalgam of what does it look like underneath that. You know, when you see a premolar that maybe has a DO and you recommend the crown, the hygienist is like, well, why can't we just do another DO? Well, you see what the tooth looks like once it's prepped. There's not much left.
Right.
So just help them see what you see, educate them to why you treatment plan the way that you do, and then say, I really value your opinion and your help in pre-educating our patients on what you believe I'm going to recommend. And
Amen.
just really just pouring into them, because when you do that and you trust them, they will support you and make your job so much easier.
100%.
And as a hygienist, it's way more fun because I get to be a partner with the dentist in how we're treating patients. And that's a whole lot more interesting than me just showing up every day and doing a prophy on 8 people, you know, and talking about their daughter's wedding. You know, I mean, we've got to connect with our patients personally, but you know, this is another podcast that we're going to do. We were pitching ideas on how to do this, but we're not playing around anymore. Like, it
Right.
is very clear. I mean, periodontal disease is an inflammatory condition and it is affecting our patients' health every single day. And we have a responsibility to be identifying this disease. And, you know, we can't do that alone. We've got to support that. And the whole team has got to be on the same page with that and with supporting the doctor's treatment as well.
Yeah, I'm just saying you guys got to hang out with Rachel because by osmosis, you're going to pick up a lot of great stuff. And I heard you say years ago, and of course, I use this one all the time. This is one of my favorite Rachel Wallisms. You go, okay, so what do you believe about periodontal disease and all these people? And then everyone's raising their hands, and you actually had a perio mutiny going on. I mean, you had people like up in arms about how important it is. And then you said, so what are you doing right now that supports what you just all said? And it was like crickets were in the room. It was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, so, in another moment, I'm going to tell you.
Are we walking our talk?
We are walking our talk. And then another moment that was really special for me, and this isn't about me. I stood in line. When you talk about, you know, the great importance of inflammation and how important perio is and what we do, I had a moment of my life where I was at Hinman and, you know, I'm standing next to you and Bale and Doneen. I'm like, this is not happening.
Yeah.
Like this, I'm in the bookends of like the perio importance world. It was really, really cool. So, I don't know. I don't even know why I just said that. It was just an important moment in my education. So I think what you're doing is life-changing. It's groundbreaking. It is one of the most important subjects that's hit dentistry, and I believe it's not going away. So,
well, yeah, and I want to thank Dr. Bale and Dr. Doneen for all they've done for our industry too to create that awareness. And if you don't know them, you have to check them out. And they have a new book. It's about your memory. It's memory and your heart. I'm sorry. The title is, you can put the link. You'll put the link to their new book in the podcast show notes.
I will.
You have to get it. It's fantastic.
And I don't know offhand what it is too, but I will put the link in there. And then I also want you to talk about your hygiene growth roadmap. First of all, tell us what it is and why you created it. And then where can I go to get it?
So the hygiene growth roadmap has been a part of our coaching process for the last 18 years that Inspired Hygiene has been around. And it is a very detailed analysis of the hygiene department. And so it really gives you 3 things. One, it gives you an audit of multiple systems within the hygiene department to see what's working really well, where are your strong points, and where are some areas that could use some shoring up, some refinement, some consistency. So we look even at things like charting and the quality of the clinical notes and the diagnosis. How consistent are the hygienists between each other? We look at recare and scheduling. So it's that audit of a lot of systems within the hygiene department. Two, it's going to help you identify some very clear paths to growth within the hygiene department. And that doesn't have to just be more patients, more selling of, products or this or that. It's really, where do we have opportunities to care for our patients at a higher level? And then the third piece is we will give you some quick wins that you can implement as a team within the first 30 days with, getting this new information, and then some longer strategic recommendations of how to really transform the hygiene department or get it even to the next level if you feel like you've plateaued. And we can help facilitate those things, or there's some things that some practices can do on their own. Right. So you're going to get some actionable steps from this, from a growth standpoint. And so we do all of this virtually, and we do this with all of our clients. And we have quite a few folks that come to us just to do the hygiene growth roadmap to kind of see, where are we? Do we have room to grow? And so we do this as a standalone service as well. And we really enjoy it and have a lot of, fun kind of digging into hygiene departments and showing teams like what's working well. We always like to give you some good news, right? And then also, where are there areas that you could create more calibration and consistency and growth within the team?
Yeah. Where do I get it though? Where do I go? Tell the listeners.
Yeah. So you can check us out. Our website's inspiredhygiene.com. I'd say if you're specifically interested in that, we're going to be running a promotion on that soon. And if you mention the podcast, you can email us at clients@inspiredhygiene.com, and we will honor that courtesy that we're giving on the hygiene growth roadmap. So reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you about it, and see if we share a little insight with you about your hygiene department.
Yeah, you guys have to check it out. And if you're not taking notes, don't worry, we're taking notes for you. So flip up to the show notes in Stitcher, iTunes, wherever it is. You'll go see a link to everything that Rachel's mentioned. You can click right on it. It'll take you right there. But Rachel, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Always enjoy being with you, Kirk.
I enjoy being with you. I'm going to volunteer you for 2 more podcasts. How's that? Like, I didn't even ask you. I just told you. So
I'm ready. Let's do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. So stick around while we say goodbye to everybody else. But thank you guys for listening to the Best Practices Show. Hey, if you enjoyed today, just do us a favor, hit the share button, share with your friends. Keep sending us suggestions for things that you guys want to see. You're going to see, I'm going to get Rachel back over and over again. And one of them, we're going to be talking about the periodontal link between, what's happening with Alzheimer's, and we're not screwing around anymore. That's going to be a fun podcast. And I promise you're going to love it. So until we see you guys next time, or you hear from us next time, keep watching the Best Practices Show. You guys enjoy your day.